For really the first time this season, we saw a Georgia team that has been wildly dominant bend a little bit, but they certainly didn't break in a 39-22 win against Kent State Saturday. Hey everybody, this is Sarah Spencer with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and this is Know Your Dogs. Hey. We have a jam-packed episode for you today. I'll be joined by Kirby Smart, Brock Bowers, Stetson Bennett, Smile Munden, Jamon Dumas-Johnson, and my colleague, our Georgia beat writer Chip Towers, to help me break down Saturday's win. So stay with us. Georgia went from 0 turnovers its first 3 games, giving up 10 points combined in those first 3 games, to 3 turnovers in the first half alone Saturday, giving up 22 points overall. That's obviously a pretty big disparity, but Georgia coach Kirby Smart actually said he was happy for the adversity Georgia encountered. It hasn't encountered much this season, so if it makes the team better, he's okay with it.
It's bad. I told them I thought they played really hard and really physical, and they played a really good football team. And when you're honest with your team, they believe you. Like when you walk in on Monday and you say, hey, this team's really good. They might be better than what we played. We got to practice well. And then they go practice well. They listen. And after the game, you're not going to go back and say, well, guys, this team stinks. You know, I'm not. That's a good football team. They won their conference last year, and they got a really good conference. They played 2 other ranked teams really tough. I mean, I got a lot of respect for Kent State and the coach and the coaching job they do. So I'm not down about where our guys played. If you turn the ball over 4 times, you're going to be in ball games like that. So we got to prevent that first.
Georgia quarterback Stetson Bennett mentioned, 3 turnovers, that's definitely unacceptable, but he's not really sure what we were all expecting. Kent State is a good team, and they gave Georgia a challenge.
Right, not once. Had over 500 yards of offense, scored 39 points. We had a good day. We just 3 turnovers, almost consecutively, like boom, 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 all in the first half. You can't have that, right? But we still scored. What did we score in the first half? 24, 20, something like that. And they're a good team. 2 carries, 2 rushing touchdowns for tight end Brock Bowers, who's usually blocking, pass catching, your typical tight end behavior. But he said as long as he gets the ball in space, he doesn't care what the play call is.
Yeah, it's always great to just touch the ball, and especially out of the backfield, because you kind of have a feeling that you're getting it, and you can just kind of make plays in space. That's why I like it.
I would be thinking that myself. Block is just he's crazy. He's like a cheat code pretty much. I go against him. I went against him every day in the summer. That guy just like a cheat code. He's really fast, really strong. He's just all around player.
Is it something? We've heard people say people just bounce off him. Does he just run a certain way?
People just bounce off him. It's really crazy. Brock is he's one of the best players I've ever seen.
6 tackles, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for a loss from Georgia linebacker Jamon Dumas-Johnson. But he said the biggest thing he wants Georgia's defense to take away from this game is more communication and just how important that is.
It made it much harder. When you turn the ball over, you give them great field possession and things like that. So they get close to the end zone. But we should have stopped them, and we got to get back and work harder. And be as a team, communicate. We got to be as one. You got to talk on defense every play, every second, every minute. Everything you do in defense, you got to talk.
All right, everybody, let's bring in our Georgia beat writer, Chip Towers. Chip, I don't mean to brag on us, but you and I, we kind of called it that of all the teams Georgia has played so far this season, Kent State was probably going to give them the best game.
Yeah, that 45.5-point line aside, you knew this was a good team. They'd already been to 2, Power 5 powerhouse stadiums. They were not going to be intimidated, and they played just enough of kind of different stuff, both offensively and defensively, to give people fits. And that's exactly what happened here today. You just saw a Georgia defense get put on its heels a little bit by a Kent State offense playing at their absolute best in the second half.
Coach Kirby Smart did not sound all that disappointed, though, that Georgia had a little bit of adversity today. What did you make of what he said about, flexing that composure muscle? He actually said a couple players came up and gave him the composure card.
We learned about the composure card today, didn't we? Well, the whole theme this week was growth. Kirby was saying going into the week that they needed the team to grow, and so they challenged him with those growth exercises to make sure you're improving on something, and that continued into the game. And one of the things he's been saying is they need to flex their composure muscle. They need to work it out because they hadn't had it in all these blowout games. Well, they got it today. Now Georgia fans probably didn't enjoy that too much, but it wasn't a game-winning drive that you had to have it in. But right there at the end, you go 12 plays, 13 plays, 75 yards to score a touchdown, to effectively put them away. Georgia hasn't been in that situation yet this year, and it was important that they got to today.
They actually had to play 4 quarters for one.
Stetson Bennett. We realized that he can actually go 4 full quarters. We weren't sure.
He doesn't just go dormant with 12.
Third quarter, I'm out of here. It's in his contract.
I'm busy, yeah. So Jamon Dumas-Johnson, linebacker for Georgia, 6 tackles, team high, 2 sacks. But Georgia's defense, overall, Kent State did move the ball on them.
Yeah, they did. It's almost a deceiving game because if you're sitting there watching it, you're going, wow, there are really taking advantage of Georgia. And you look at the end of the game, it's 281 total yards. In the context,
it's just more than we're used to
seeing.
In
the context of what we've seen all year long, you just can't even fathom it. So Georgia really did a good job, both offensively and defensively. Heck, they never punted. But at the same time, those plays they had, a 56-yard touchdown, another fake punt. We've seen that just about every week now. And a lot of little breakdowns like that. He's talking about leveraging the sideline, running the football, all of those things. So, it's really a coach's dream to come out with a W, and then you have all this bad stuff to talk about during the week. So you make sure they have their full attention before they go to Missouri.
Now, Ladd McConkey had some really uncharacteristic turnovers in this game. Uncharacteristic just first half, honestly. He just looked shaky. 2 of Georgia's 3 turnovers. What do you make of just Ladd struggling? He settled down a little bit in the second half, and the turnovers overall?
Well, the turnovers Georgia hadn't had turnover all year. So when he muffs the punt in the first quarter, that is the absolute worst play in football, is to give up the ball on a turnover of possession. It's just so many, it's just the worst thing that can possibly happen. And that's why Ladd McConkey's out there. He's been perfect in his career on those plays until now. But you're playing Kent State, maybe you're thinking you want something to happen. That's the east end zone he was catching over here. I'm sure he's looking straight in the sun.
Ooh, we had to move just for y'all's purpose. We couldn't even be on the field to shoot this because it was too bright.
Yeah, just too bright today.
So
really
I can't imagine fielding a ball,
But, and it wasn't just the 2 turnovers. That he also had a fumble at the end of a run, but, he dropped a touchdown that it wasn't perfectly thrown, but, he catches that, 95% of the time. Everybody has that kind of day. And Kirby Smart was asked about it, and he said, what did you say to Ladd McConkey? And he said, I love you.
I was more upset after the punt, not the fumble, because the fumbles happened, but the punt was more decision. The fumble was something else. But there's nobody that feels any worse than Ladd, right? And we need Ladd. We're going to go where we need to go. Ladd's a big part of our offense. He's a big weapon for us. And he's also, people don't know he's dealing with a foot injury, so he's not able to practice the same volume. So when you don't practice whatever your reps is, or 50 reps in a practice, and he gets 15 or 20, he doesn't get as much ball security work. He doesn't get hit as much. So we got to do a good job making sure he can practice, and we're not asking him to do too much.
He did have to get served a couple composure cards, though, after that muffed punt. Some players were like, here's my card.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Got them a little bit, but they were able to move past it.
Yeah, and if you ever watch Kirby on the sideline, it is kind of interesting that he's the guy who talks about composure all the time, because that composure is the last thing that comes to my mind.
He's like
when I think of what he's doing. He loses it on every play, and then comes back again. It was really reminiscent of Vince Dooley many years ago. One time they put a camera on Vince Dooley for an entire game, and he's twisting and jumping and just all these moves on the side. Kirby's kind of the same way, though he has kind of post-play action.
This is why we bring you on, Chip, for stories like that. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you go to ajc.com or subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch more videos just like this.